Hi and welcome to this week's edition of 3 and Out here on LTTV. I'm your host, Johnny Lombardi, and alongside me this episode is Tim Goldrick once again. Now, Tim, you were on our first episode, and since then a lot of things have happened. I just want to get your take on the Chicago Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup, since we talked about the first episode and you haven't really gotten a chance to respond.
I thought it was unbelievable. The team play they had during that Stanley Cup was unbelievable. The defense was great, the forwards were great, the centers were great, and of course, Corey Crawford in net was fantastic.
Absolutely, and you see, we have football jerseys on, so we're probably not going to be talking about that much hockey today. Today is our football preview episode. It may still be summer, but fall is just around the corner. And the NFL season is really a topic that never stops, never dies. So we're going to go through each division in today's episode. We're going to start off in the NFC, where the defending NFC champions San Francisco 49ers are looking to make another run towards the Super Bowl, along with the Seattle Seahawks, St. Louis Rams, and Arizona Cardinals. All right, Tim, what are some of your preliminary thoughts about this division?
The NFC West, in my opinion, is the best division in the whole NFL. They have great depth in the division, and they have pretty good quarterbacks, but also great defenses. Every team in this division can play defense. So I'm looking for a very competitive season, and San Francisco 49ers, they look tough, Johnny.
Absolutely. So give me some of your players that are going to stand out in the NFC West.
Well, obviously, Colin Kaepernick, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, he's going to be big. And also, it's going to be very interesting because, this is the year of the quarterback, and it's a quarterback league. It's going to be very interesting to see if Russell Wilson can keep up with Colin Kaepernick's numbers, because there's a sophomore slump. Don't get them wrong. Both of them could have, average seasons.
Now, give us some teams in the NFC West that people may not fully be aware of. I mean, there's only 4 teams, but one team out of the bottom 2 that you think could really surprise some people.
I think the St. Louis Rams are poised for an above 500 year. It's going to be tough in that division, I know. But I think they can go 9-7, especially with the great defense they have. And if Sam Bradford really finally comes into his own and acts like a #1 draft pick, then they could be pretty good.
Absolutely. That's the key for the St. Louis Rams, I think, is Sam Bradford finally needs to have his year. He's been having some good years, but he hasn't fully broken out. Out of those bottom 2 teams, I really think that the Arizona Cardinals may be poised for a big year. They have that defense full of those LSU defenders that I love, Tyrann Mathieu, Kevin Minter, and Patrick Peterson. I think if they can find a quarterback that can somehow lead their offense with Larry Fitzgerald and find someone at running back, I think Arizona is on the uphill climb, especially with that talented defense. Now, give us your predictions record-wise and standings-wise of the NFC West.
I think the San Francisco 49ers, 13-3 is a good record for them. Jim Harbaugh has the team ready to go. I think they'll be great. Seattle and St. Louis, I think, are going 9-7. It's very surprising to people because Seattle was picked to win the Super Bowl by a lot. But I'm just not feeling Seattle very much this year. I think St. Louis and Seattle will be 9-7 average teams. Arizona, I could see them going 5-11, 6-10.
All right, now we're going to move on to the NFC North, the division of our hometown Chicago Bears. And Tim, it may not be the year for the Bears, but it's a year for a couple other teams in that division. What are your preliminary thoughts about the NFC North?
Minnesota's offseason was fantastic, I thought. With the addition of Greg Jennings, that gives Christian Ponder someone to throw the ball to who is the most reliable receiver in the NFC North the past 4 or 5 years. So I think the Minnesota Vikings are very poised for a big year.
Absolutely. And out of the 2 teams, Minnesota and Green Bay, that a lot of people aren't considering to be running up front in the division, Detroit and Chicago, who do you think can have at least the more productive year?
I know it's going to kill Bears fans, but with the addition of Reggie Bush in the offseason for the Lions, I think they are going to have a much more balanced approach on offense. Their defense got a little bit better. They had a pretty decent draft. I think the Detroit Lions can make a run at this division.
Give me 3 players to look out for in the NFC North.
NFC North, I'd look out for Brandon Marshall, obviously. Yeah. He's been fantastic. Greg Jennings. It's going to be the year of the receiver in this division. And Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb has really shown a lot of great development, and I think he'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to say that Green Bay takes this division with a 12-4 record. Minnesota right behind, they're going to be around 10-6, and then I had the Bears around 9-7, 8-8, and then Detroit Lions around 7-9 or 6-10. How about the NFC South, the division that was won last year by the Atlanta Falcons, running away from the competition, really? An off year for the Saints. What do you see Is New Orleans going to bounce back in this division?
Well, with Sean Payton coming back, you really never know. This division, I think, is the most that's up for grabs in the NFC. I mean, you have 4 potential teams who could win the division. A lot of people are counting Tampa Bay out, but Tampa Bay has shown some success, and if Josh Freeman...
It's got to be Josh Freeman's year this year.
Yeah, if he finally plays like what we saw his rookie year, then Tampa Bay could have a pretty good year.
Give me 3 players to look out for in the NFC South.
I think it's Josh Freeman. It's going to be a big year for him. Cam Newton. It's going to be huge for Cam Newton. I'm a big Cam Newton fan. I thought he's been great. He's had some pretty much unwarranted criticism on him the last couple of years, which... You know,
if you can get a supporting cast, a real supporting cast in Carolina.
Exactly. And then it's Roddy White from Atlanta. Roddy White's a great receiver on Atlanta, and I think if he can get open, make some big catches for Matt Ryan, I think they can make another deep run.
The NFC East last season was the division that was run by the upstart Washington Redskins in the last week of the season over the Dallas Cowboys, Tim. So what are some of your early thoughts on this division?
RG3, healthy. If RG3 is healthy, Redskins win the division.
Easily, or do you think they're going to find any competition? Because the Giants are kind of rebuilding, and so are the Eagles.
I really am not a fan of what the other 3 teams have done in the offseason. I think if RG3 can actually stay healthy throughout the whole year, and even if he doesn't, Kirk Cousins is a reliable backup. Remember that. But I think the Redskins run away with this division.
Give me 3 players other than Robert Griffin III to watch in this division.
I'd say Miles Austin on Dallas. He's got to have a bounce-back year. He had a really rough year last year. Then I would have to go with Eli Manning. Eli Manning always seems to be the regular season quarterback who doesn't play so hot, but if he gets in the playoffs...
Look out.
Exactly. And then from Philadelphia, LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy kind of broke a lot of fantasy owners' hearts last year. Yeah. And I speak of this in first person. He broke my heart. If he can get back on track, score some more touchdowns, get more out of the backfield catches. They didn't throw to him too much last year, and that's a strength of his. So I'd look for him to be a big player.
Speaking of LaShawn McCoy, Philadelphia, over or under 6 wins this year?
I would have to say under, Johnny. It's surprising people, but I have Philadelphia going 4-12.
Again?
Chip Kelly is not going to be used to this. You know, he's run and gun.
Yeah.
You're in the NFL. You're not going to be able to run and gun. You have Michael Vick, who's... he's here at the end of the year.
Maybe if it was earlier Michael Vick, they
he's
could
exactly. He's like Donovan McNabb when he was on the Eagles in his later years. You just want him out of town at this point.
All right, we're going to take a break here on 3 and Up, but when we get back, we're going to talk about the AFC, and is Denver going to completely dominate that league this year? We'll find out next. Hi, welcome back to 3 and Out here on LTTV. Johnny Lombardi alongside me, Tim Goldrick. We're going to talk about the AFC now. Just wrapped up talking about the NFC. And we're going to talk about really which was one of the most blowout divisions in all of football last year, the AFC West. The Denver Broncos, loaded with talent last year, just destroyed this division. And Tim, is there really a chance for anyone else in the AFC West?
Well, don't get me wrong. I think some teams will be improved, especially Kansas City. They were way too good to go 2-14 last year. They have a great defense, a bunch of playmakers. Almost reminds me of the Bears playmakers, just not quite as good up front. So I think Kansas City will be a little bit better, but Denver runs away with this division still. I mean, there's no chance that anybody else catches them.
Absolutely. With Peyton Manning, Wes Welker, and that entire Denver's defense could be troubled now with Von Miller potentially suspended. They screwed up that Doomerville situation really bad. They re-signed Raheem Moore. The secondary may be a little questionable. I'm looking at Denver's defense. That could be their one Achilles heel, but they're going to put up a lot of points this year.
I agree. Peyton Manning, that second year with the team, you always increase. And the addition of Wes Welker is unbelievable to me that the Patriots would let him go. This guy catches more balls in the slot than any receiver in the league. He will be great for Peyton Manning.
Absolutely. And you can see by my jersey, I'm a big Denver Broncos fan since I was a little kid. Parents grew up there. So I'm really looking forward to Peyton Manning just to dominate again. Give me 2 players other than Peyton Manning to look out for in this division.
I would definitely look out for Phillip Rivers. He came off a horrendous year last year, especially in the first half. So he's got a new coaching staff in place. Hopefully Phillip Rivers can get back on track. Then I look for Eric Berry, the safety for Kansas City. He had a terrific year last year, made it to the Pro Bowl, although he played for a 2-14 team. Look for him to make another Pro Bowl and really be the anchor of that defense.
Absolutely. We're going to move on now to the AFC North Division, which was won by Baltimore last season. And Tim, Pittsburgh had an off season, a rare bad season, and Baltimore was able to almost run away with this, with Cincinnati kind of right there. But who do you see shaping out of this division with 3 solid contenders, and then Cleveland really getting a little bit better?
If Ben Roethlisberger is healthy all year, I see Pittsburgh coming out of that. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. He riles up the troops better than anybody in the league, I think. So I think Pittsburgh moves past this Baltimore and Cincinnati phase we've been having the last couple years, and Pittsburgh gets back into the mix.
Give me 3 players to look out for in the AFC North.
Joe Flacco just signed a huge contract. And there's been plenty of studies done on how much better you play in a contract year to when you after the contract. You know, you get paid.
A little complacent.
Exactly.
Just won the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So I look out for him. Then from Cincinnati, A.J. Green, one of the most talented young receivers in the game. If Andy Dalton can throw him the ball right on the money, look for him to be the leading receiver in the league, and that's past Calvin Johnson. And then my third player to watch out for is probably Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, if he's healthy, it's going to be great for Pittsburgh. But if not, struggles.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the AFC South now, where last season the Houston Texans ran away with the division early. They kind of faltered down the stretch and they were able to win their wild card game. But the Indianapolis Colts, going from worst to really, really good last season, could contend for this division with 2 extremely average teams in the bottom half. What are your early thoughts going into this season for this division?
I think it's a pretty weak division. I think if Andrew Luck can play as well as he did his first year, that they have a chance to win the division, but I still love Houston's balance. Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator, is one of the top defensive coordinators in the game. He wasn't a great head coach, but he really, really improved that Houston defense. And now you look at the balance of that team, and I can't see anybody overtaking them.
Out of the bottom 2, Jacksonville or Tennessee, do you see any substantial improvement for either one of those?
I do not. I think the quarterback issue is still very prevalent in both of those towns. And you know, as well as anybody, that in the NFL, you need to have a good, strong quarterback. And I don't think Jake Locker gets the job done for Tennessee.
Absolutely not. Give us 3 players to look out for in this division.
I know I might be breaking rules, but I have 2 from Houston.
That's fine.
Arian Foster.
Tennessee and Jacksonville honestly does not count.
Yes, Arian Foster is going to be huge for Houston this year. Again, he's best running back in the game, in my opinion. And then Andre Johnson, again, another guy, if he can stay healthy, it'll be huge for Houston. And then my third guy is from Indianapolis. I would have to go with Reggie Wayne.
Oh, wow.
Later
in his career.
Way later in his career. This could be his last year, for all we know. But last year, he was kind of revitalized with a new quarterback, young, and he loved going out there playing really hard for Andrew Luck, and he was a huge reason why Indianapolis succeeded last year.
Absolutely. We're going to go to our last. The AFC East has been just dominated by the New England Patriots historically in this past decade. This season, that could change. New England now obviously losing Aaron Hernandez and Wes Welker. Do you see anyone possibly knocking off the Patriots this year?
Well, it's been a tumultuous offseason for the Patriots, to say the least. And this year, I really believe that the Miami Dolphins...
The what, though?
The Miami Dolphins can do something about the Patriots' reign. Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback. He gets lost in the mix when you talk about, you know, guys like Russell Wilson, RG3, Andrew Luck. I really think Ryan Tannehill is talented.
Solid.
I think
a solid starting quarterback.
Definitely. And I think the draft of Deion Jordan really helps the defense. He's from Oregon, and he was the 3rd pick overall. The Miami Dolphins will be a much improved team, and I see them beating the New England Patriots.
They also brought in Mike Wallace as a receiver. That definitely helps the offense. I like the Dolphins as well. I don't know if I like them to overtake the division, but I like them to contend with New England and make this really a 2-horse race in this division for the first time in a while since the Jets have kind of fallen off the map. But we'll be right back here on 3 and Out to talk about some of our Super Bowl picks and our final 6 playoff teams. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back here to 3 and Out on LTTV. Johnny Lombardi alongside me, Tim Goldrick. We've been talking all NFL, all episode long, and that's not going to change for this third segment. We're going to get our picks for the entire playoff race. Now, Tim, I want you to go 1 through 6, your AFC standings going into the playoffs. 4 division winners, 2 wild cards.
The Denver Broncos from the AFC, I think they're the top team in the league. I know you're happy about that.
Woo!
But Denver with Peyton Manning, really big. Pittsburgh Steelers, I look for a bounce-back year. Mike Tomlin's a great coach. Roethlisberger's a great quarterback. I think they have a lot of success on defense. My 3 seed is the Houston Texans. Their offense and defense, I'm telling you, this balance is so perfect that they could possibly get over the hump in the playoffs and make the Super Bowl. I know, that is big to say. The Houston Texans can have a big year. My 4 seed is the Miami Dolphins. We talked about it in an earlier segment. I think Joe Philbin's a great coach. I think he's got a great offensive mind, and I think Ryan Tannehill comes through. My 2 wild card teams are the Cincinnati Bengals, which they have been in the playoffs last 2 years as wild cards. Mm-hmm. A.J. Green and the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, they're pretty good. I think they'll make it. And my 6 seed is the New England Patriots. I think they sneak in barely.
Sneak in, wow.
Tom Brady's too good to miss the playoffs.
So what team's going to be the 7th on the outside looking in?
On the outside looking in is, unfortunately, the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Baltimore Ravens. When you lose Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, 2 defensive guys that have been so big for you in the past couple years, I mean, I don't think you bounce back from that, and I think the Ravens miss the playoffs.
All right, for me in the AFC, I'm going to take, obviously, how could I not pick the Denver Broncos to be the #1 team in the league? I mean, I'm obviously going to take that. Peyton Manning just going to put up monster numbers this year. 2 seed, I'm going to say the Houston Texans. I also love their balance. Everything that they've done in Houston has been fantastic. The 3 seed, I'm going to take Pittsburgh. A bounce back year after they had a struggle last year. If Ben Roethlisberger can stay healthy, he'll lead that team to a good spot. I'm going to say New England hangs on and wins the AFC East, barely over Miami. So they'll get in as a division winner. My 2 wild cards, the Indianapolis Colts led by Andrew Luck. They're going to keep on improving. They're going to get one of the wild card spots again. And then I'm going to agree with you. The Miami Dolphins will surprise a lot of people and get into the playoffs. My 7th team on the outside looking in is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. Just they lost too much on defense. You said in the earlier segment, Flacco, not in a contract year, could be a really different Joe Flacco than we saw last season. We're going to go to the NFC now. And Tim, I want to hear your 6 NFC teams.
The New Orleans Saints bounced back this year in a huge way.
Wow.
Sean Payton is fantastic coach. Drew Brees had a adequate season for him, at least, last year. He'll bounce back this year. They'll have a good season. They'll be the 1 seed. My 2 seed is the 49ers. Nothing really has changed. Kaepernick will be great again. My 3 seed moves on to the Washington Redskins. They're going to win the division, and I think RG3 really has a big year, stays healthy the whole year, which helps the Shanahans, both of them, run that offense. 4 seed, I got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings will win the NFC North this year. It's a surprise, but it'll be a role reversal because the Green Bay Packers will get the wild card at the 5 seed.
Okay.
6 seed comes as a shock to everybody. The Carolina Panthers are going to make the playoffs this year. It is Ron Rivera's time to finally shine as a head coach.
Cam Newton's had some really good years, but hasn't just had that support. Really, you think he's going to be able to just put it all together this season? I've been waiting for Carolina to make the playoffs.
I really do. I think they improved their defense, and there was a lot of optimism last year. Hopefully that carries over for them this year, and I think they can make it.
Who's that 7th team that's going to miss the playoffs?
It's the Detroit Lions. It's not the Chicago Bears, it's the Detroit Lions, another NFC North team. I think Matthew Stafford has a big year. He just got a contract signed, which could be deadly for him, but I think he'll play really well. He's got great weapons on offense.
Absolutely. And for me in the NFC, I'm going to go #1, the San Francisco 49ers. I think Colin Kaepernick is just a fantastic talent in this league. 49ers are going to, in my opinion, maybe not cruise to the 1 seed, but they'll be in control of it for much of the year. The 2 seed, I'm going to say that the New Orleans Saints, I got to represent Louisiana well in this show. The New Orleans Saints will have a huge bounce back year and be the 2 seed. They'll win their division. The Green Bay Packers, I'm going to disagree with Tim here. I think the Packers are going to continue and win the NFC North. And I'm going to say the Washington Redskins win the NFC East over the Cowboys, pulling away late in the end. My 2 wildcard teams, I'm going to go with Seattle Seahawks, a team that everyone has been really high on this offseason. Maybe not Tim Goldrick. He might be the only one not high in the Seahawks right now. And I'm going to agree with you. The Carolina Panthers, I think Cam Newton's really going to put it together this year and have a productive year, not a productive year, but an overproductive year, and surprise a lot of people. My 7th team that's going to be left out is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, they're in a tough division, a really division that's up for grabs with a lot of talent. I think Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White just barely missed out on the playoffs this year after winning the regular season NFC a year ago. Now, Tim, I want you to pick 2 teams that could surprise a lot of people in the NFL this year.
Well, I think Carolina is obviously a team that can surprise many people. Nobody's really picking them. Last year actually was the year that everybody started to select them, but after a really, really rough season and start to the season, nobody's on their train anymore. I am. I think they'll be surprising. And I also think from the AFC, I think Kansas City has a chance to surprise a lot of people. That doesn't necessarily mean making the playoffs, but an 8-8, 9-7 year could be in the cards for Kansas City.
Absolutely. And for me, I'm going to go with a team that you said earlier, the Miami Dolphins, obviously going to surprise a lot of people. And I want people to watch out for the Arizona Cardinals. A lot of playmakers on defense. If they can get that offense put together with the quarterback situation, I really think that they can make a good run. We'll be right back here on 3 and Out. Coming up, we're going to stop talking about football for a little bit. We'll talk about Ryan Braun and the recent MLB steroid scandal. We'll be right back.
To order a DVD copy of any LTTV program, call us at 708-579-6407 or log on to our website at lttvonline.com. Follow the directions and submit your order. LTTV, welcome home.
Hi, welcome back to 3 and Out here on LTTV. Johnny Lombardi alongside me, Tim Goldrick. This is our last segment for the episode, and it's really a sad subject to talk about, Tim. Ryan Braun of the Milwaukee Brewers suspended for the rest of the season for his connections to steroid use in his professional baseball career. What are your thoughts about this?
I think it's an embarrassment. I think it's the equivalent of Lance Armstrong in baseball. He lied about it more than once. He basically ruined a man's life who was testing for the MLB by trying to prove him not credible at all. So I think Ryan Braun is really an embarrassment, and I think it's a huge win for the MLB.
Absolutely. Is Alex Rodriguez next?
I believe so. I think the Yankees believe so as well. He's been held out of that lineup. He's got a quad strain now, apparently. So I think he's next in line, and like Ryan Braun, I don't think there'll be much contest from him. Yeah. I think he'll take his suspension and try to get back in the league next year.
There's been a lot of talk about MLB suspending players for life. Do you think the Major League Baseball will ever have the guts to suspend a star player for life?
I think it's a really hard subject for a lot of people to wrap their mind around. You know, you're suspended for 10 years, and if this happens when you're 18, or 28, you're not coming back in the league for 10 years. It's unbelievable to me. But if Ryan Braun stays on the track he is, you never know.
Exactly. And when Barry Bonds had his steroid issues, he was still celebrated and cheered for by the San Francisco fans. His first at-bat next season, what will be the reaction of the Brewers fans?
I think the Brewers fans will welcome him back. It's hometown love. It's obviously not warranted that he should be welcomed back like that, but they'll probably give him some cheers. But he is going to go through the worst cycle of his life when he goes to opposing ballparks.
Goes to Wrigley, goes to
He's an outfielder,
PNC.
too. He gets the bleacher bums on his back all game, so it's going to be rough for him.
Absolutely. So what's next for Major League Baseball and steroids? What is their next move in just finishing this process, which seems to have just infected the game all over?
Well, now that they have credibility, I think they can go on and really go after these next few players that were named in the Tony Bosch report. I think after they finish that, baseball becomes a little more cleaner until obviously the next scandal. We're not naive to this subject anymore. Baseball goes through it every year. There's a big name who gets caught for steroids. So it's really sad for the MLB as you see attendance is dropping, everything's dropping in the MLB, and this just hurts it even more.
Back to the suspension subject. Will it take the MLB suspending someone for their career to really get people to stop doing it, to get players to stop taking part in it?
I understand that method to try to send a message, but I think in the end, baseball is exciting when people are hitting a lot of home runs, and a lot of people say they went to the ball games more when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were coming into their buildings because They want to see home runs. So baseball's in a tough predicament. I don't think we'll ever see them suspend someone like that. Yeah. Although I think it's a good idea, I don't think it'll happen.
Switching subjects now to a happier one. We've talked about the NBA offseason. It's been an exciting one with all our other guests, but Tim has not gotten a chance to voice his opinions on the NBA offseason and the draft and trades such as that. So what has been your reaction to this NBA offseason?
I enjoyed what Dwight Howard did. I think Houston's a great fit for him. I know LA fans may think differently, but if I'm a LA fan, I'm happy to get rid of him. He was nothing for me in LA. But in Houston, I think he can really thrive. They have a history of big men who have been very talented, and I thought it was a great decision by him to go there.
Any other moves in this offseason that you think are underrated?
Nate Robinson signing with Golden State. The guy's Denver, I'm sorry, not Golden State. He's instant offense. I mean, he's a great sign. They signed him for 2 years. I really wish the Bulls would have brought him back, but with all that depth they have in the backcourt, I think Nate Robinson's a great signing for Denver.
Give us one overrated signing that you think is not going to work out.
Well, I really don't think that the New York Knicks signing Andre Bargnani is going to work out. I mean, the Knicks need a guy who's an enforcer who can attack the rim. They don't need another shooter. They have Steve Novak. And they have Novak. I mean, you don't need Bargnani.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of 3 and Out. Before we go, Tim, I want your quick Super Bowl matchup.
My quick Super Bowl matchup is Houston versus Green Bay. I think Green Bay doesn't win the division, but gets back to the Super Bowl.
It's going to be my Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. Last time that happened, John Elway and the Broncos were defeated 55-10, but that'll be different this year because Peyton Manning will lead Denver to the promised land. Thanks for joining us here on 3 and Out. For Tim Goldrick, I'm Johnny Lombardi. We'll see you next week.